know. Hello and welcome back to my channel, and we are still covering the Stauch case in this video. We are going over the Stauch affidavit, and we are going to discuss what we think about it, what we think about the evidence outlined in it, and what we think happened, since we're really not going to get any actual confession from Letecia Stauch, in my opinion. Today, we're covering the many lies in the different stories of Letecia Stauch. In doing so, we're also going to cover what we do know about her movements the day that Gannon disappeared and in the days following. Before we get started, I want to have a word from our sponsor, and our sponsor for this video is Ana Luisa Jewelry. Ana Luisa has been a sponsor of mine for a while. Once again, I have a few trusted sponsors that I've used for quite a long time, and Ana Luisa is one of them. They make some of the most beautiful jewelry pieces I've ever seen. They're tasteful, they're unique, and they're made with a lot of care and thought towards the environment and sustainability. And with Mother's Day coming up and the ability for us to actually go out to stores and purchase something for our moms being off the table a little bit, Ana Luisa is the perfect option and the perfect solution to your Mother Day worries. Ana Luisa creates jewelry that's responsible, sustainable, and transparent. They made a decision to create jewelry that doesn't come at the Earth's expense. Gold mining isn't a pretty business. It ravages landscapes and creates spaces for unsafe working conditions. Instead of mining their gold, Ana Luisa gives existing gold a beautiful second chance at life. They also do all their plating in-house, and they use sustainable materials such as 100% recycled 14-karat solid gold, sterling silver made from 92.5 pure silver, matching the highest standards in fine jewelry. It's also plated with rhodium to reinforce its longevity. And the diamonds used are sustainably grown. All diamonds are traceable, clean, and the perfect alternative to mined diamonds. What's best is their transparent pricing. They sell luxury jewelry without the luxury markups, and they priced things honestly so more people can enjoy more beautiful things every day. This necklace that I wear every day, it's my all-time favorite necklace I've ever owned. It's the Green Palace necklace. I wear it every single day. I love it, and I got it from Ana Luisa. And I also recently received these amazingly beautiful pair of earrings. I cannot wait to wear these. I can't wait for a special occasion when we're finally out of quarantine and I'm going to dress up and celebrate and put these gorgeous earrings on. I like them a lot because they have these beautiful pastel stones, which is going to be perfect for summer. The top one's blue and the middle one's pink, and then the bottom one is like a canary yellow, and they're just gorgeous. Like I said, I can't wait to get out of here so I can celebrate, dress up, go to dinner somewhere, wear these earrings. Right now, Ana Luisa is running amazing sales for Mother's Day. For our audience here in the US, you will use the code MOM35, which is buy one, get one 35% off, plus a free gift box. But for our non-US viewers, there's a deal for you too. You can use the code MOM15 and get 15% off all orders over $120 plus a free gift box. In the description box, you'll find a link. You can click on that link and go check out what Ana Luisa has to offer, as well as other deals they might be running on their site right now. Thank you to Ana Luisa for continuing to sponsor this channel, keeping this channel going, and thank you to all of you out there who listen to the sponsors and understand that a lot of times we have to take sponsors on this channel in order to keep this channel going. Now let's get started on the video. So first, I want to talk about when Letecia picked up her husband and Gannon's father, Al, from the airport on the morning of January 28th, which was the day after Gannon disappeared and allegedly Letecia murdered him. So I'm on page 8 of the affidavit, and it's paragraph 56. It says, Mr. Stauch spent the night in Denver on January 25th, 2020, and flew out of Denver International Airport on January 26th, 2020. Investigators were able to corroborate he traveled to Dallas, Texas, and ultimately to Oklahoma based on his flight records. On the morning of January 28th, 2020, Letecia rented a 2019 Kia Rio from Avis Rent-A-Car in Colorado Springs. Letecia picked Mr. Stauch up at the Colorado Springs airport at about 8:50 a.m. on January 28th. And this was basically right after she rented the Kia. Letecia and Al drove back to their house from the airport in the rented Kia. Now, obviously, it's suspicious why T would feel the need to rent a car when her Volkswagen Tiguan had no issues. She had been driving it. It was not broken down. There was no mechanical issues. But she decided to rent a car to pick up Al from the airport in Colorado Springs. In paragraph 57, it says the timing of the rental of the Kia is suspicious and combined with forensic evidence later obtained from the Tiguan and discussed below tends to place additional importance on why Letecia felt compelled to rent a vehicle that morning. Investigators located no evidence that the Tiguan was not mechanically functioning or noted any reason why it could not have been physically driven. In fact, the Tiguan remained parked in the Colorado Springs Airport short-term parking lot until approximately 7 p.m. on January 28th. Now, apparently, Letecia had told Al that she rented the car because she was concerned about putting mileage on her Tiguan lease, which would justify the vehicle rental. It's noted, however, that during the time of the Kia rental, Letecia only put about 71 miles on the vehicle. It's not clear whether they mean she put 71 miles on the Kia or had only put 71 miles on her Tiguan. But what's really suspicious is she didn't tell Al where her Tiguan was. I'm not sure if he asked or if she just failed to mention it, but it was at the airport, and when Al was questioned by investigators, he said he thought it was parked at a school the whole time. Between investigators and Mr. Stauch, a limited search for the Tiguan was conducted and produced negative results. So basically, once they realized she rented this car, they looked for her car, but they couldn't find it. And then it was later discovered that she'd left the car at the airport, but then moved the car at 7 p.m. on January 28th. But the Kia Rio wasn't returned to the Avis rent-a-car place until the next morning, January 29th. So she rents this car, picks up Al, they go home. At some point, she goes back for her Tiguan, drives it someplace else, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then the next morning, she returns the Kia. She had also changed her story at one point and told her husband that she rented this car because she was searching for Gannon, and she felt it would be more likely that they could find Gannon if he was like walking around town and they were driving around looking for him. It would be more likely that they could find him if they weren't driving a vehicle that he recognized, because if he saw her car looking for him, he would run and hide. Now, the Volkswagen Tiguan is obviously important to investigators because they believe that this was the vehicle used to transport the remains of Gannon from the Stauch residence to a location where Gannon's body was dumped. And the definitive locations of this vehicle are unknown to investigators during the time period of the evening of January 28th and the morning of January 29th. Because of that, because of the rental car, because they don't know where the Tiguan was, because she was clearly trying to hide something, investigators believe that she killed him on the 27th and then dumped his body on the evening of the 28th. They seized the Tiguan from her on January 29th, 2020, and she also had a scheduled interview with investigators on January 29th, 2020, which is when they ended up taking the vehicle from her. She was supposed to show up at 10:30 for this interview, but she didn't get there until noon. And when she showed up, she was driving her Volkswagen, but it was still damp, as if she had just gone through a car wash. And in fact, they had video footage of a car matching the description of her vehicle going through a nearby car wash right before she was supposed to be at the police station. And they believe that this was because Letecia had to clean the vehicle because there was likely visible blood on the rear end based on the below luminol reactions. So they took the car from her when she finally did show up, and they towed it to the EPSO evidence facility. On or about February 1st, 2020, the FBI evidence response team conducted a search of the Volkswagen Tiguan. In summary, the forensic portion of the search revealed possible traces of blood on the rear of the vehicle, a rear passenger seat, front passenger seat, and an area near the glove box based on luminol forensic latent blood stain reagent tests. Swabs from the trunk area were sent to the Metro Crime Laboratory for further analysis. These results revealed that a DNA profile could not be developed, and that swab from the trunk was negative for the presumptive presence of blood. So essentially, they found what they think is blood on the rear of the vehicle, but they did not find blood in the trunk. Several areas of the Tiguan reacted to luminol. Specifically, the search team found evidence of suspected blood on the rear bumper and step plate of the rear bumper. The location of this blood is significant because this vehicle was backed into the garage at Letecia's residence the day of Gannon's murder. The search of this residence is discussed below, but it is noted that evidence of Gannon's blood based on DNA profile was located on the floor of the garage, consistent with where the rear end of the Tiguan would have been. And we talked about this in the first video on Gannon's case, the one that we just made, part one of this, I should say. We talked about how Gannon's blood was found on the floor of the garage, and this was consistent with the area that would have been located at the back back of Letecia's vehicle, which had been backed into the garage. Inside the Tiguan, a receipt from a dollar store was located, time-stamped January 27th, 2020, and documented the purchase of trash bags, baking soda, vinegar, and the items that were listed in paragraph 74. There was other things on this dollar store receipt, baby oil, baby lotion, cotton rounds, bubble gum. The investigators don't believe that these other items had anything to do with Letecia cleaning up her crime scene, and they have no investigative value at this point, but this would have been the purchase that Harlowe made on Monday, January 27th, after she got home from work and took Lana away from the house so that Letecia could allegedly clean up the mess that she had made when she killed her stepson. This is when they also found the parking receipt from the Colorado Springs airport, which let them know where Letecia's car had been for a period of the time that they didn't know where it was. Now, on January 29th, 2020, Letecia returned the rented Kia at approximately 9 a.m., and she was picked up by someone driving the white Jetta. Investigators were unable to confirm that Harlowe was driving the Jetta, but it is her primary vehicle, and her cell phone information showed that she was in the area at that time, so it's very likely that Harlowe was the one who picked up Letecia from the rental car place when she returned the Jetta. Once they had the Tiguan in their custody, they were able to take some of the raw data from the Tiguan's computer, and thus they were able to piece together some of the locations that she may have been on the evening of January 28th, 2020. And one of these locations was the area of Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado, where particle board was discovered with Gannon's blood on it. Because of this information, so once they got that information from the car, they went there, they found the particle board. They believe that Letecia killed Gannon, took his body, and dumped it there for a temporary time before moving it. The affidavit also says something else about Harlowe's location on the evening of January 28th, 2020. So her cell phone was connected to the tower that would have serviced the Stauch residence, which was approximately 30 miles away from Letecia's suspected location. So investigators don't believe that Harlowe was with Letecia when Letecia disposed of Gannon's body. However, at approximately 10:26 p.m., Harlowe's cell phone left the Stauch residence and went to the area of Powers and Carefree, where investigators suspect she picked Letecia up. And this is going to be a question that I have. How much did Harlowe know? How much was Harlowe aware of when it came to what Letecia had done to Gannon? Because Letecia would have driven her Volkswagen, her own Volkswagen Tiguan, out to that area where she would have dumped Gannon's body. But why would Harlowe have to pick her up? Because Letecia left her vehicle in some random parking lot out there and wanted Harlowe to pick her up. Because why? Because most likely Letecia knew that there was going to be some kind of investigation, and she didn't want her car at the house when the forensics and crime scene teams showed up. So we've got Gannon's murder happening sometime on the 27th. On the 28th, Letecia picks up Al. She also drives out to this area in Douglas County, allegedly dumping Gannon's body. She has Harlowe pick her up. She leaves her car in some random parking lot where the police can't find it, and they drive back home. The next morning is when she's supposed to have her interview with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. She's supposed to get there at 10:30. She shows up late with her car that she had left in that parking lot, but it's been freshly washed. So it says in paragraph 82, as mentioned above, Letecia voluntarily came to the EPSO for an interview with investigators, but only after she was evasive and avoided speaking with investigators one-on-one. Her interview was audio and video recorded, and the below information includes her own statements as well as an investigation geared towards corroborating those statements. In general, her statements are reasonably categorized as untruthful, incomplete, and misleading. So remember, in that interview that Letecia had, the only one that we really have of her were her backs to the camera. She says that the police treated her and her daughter horribly. They wouldn't give them food. They wouldn't give them water. They wouldn't let her talk to her lawyer. They threatened them, all of these accusations. And here we can see that her interview was in fact recorded, and she was offered food, and she was offered water, and she was treated like, a normal suspect should be treated who has rights. Of interest, Letecia brought several pieces of notebook paper with her that contained notes she'd written down. During the interview, she referred to these pieces of paper and asked investigators if she could just read off her notes. Investigators were not able to seize these documents. I have conducted hundreds of interviews of subjects, victims, and witnesses. It is extremely rare for an individual to bring notes to an interview. See, Letecia wasn't really worried about looking suspicious because bringing notes to an interview certainly looks suspicious. Like, if you know what happened, especially if it just happened a couple of days ago or the day before, you don't need to refer to your notes. It's still pretty fresh in your memory. The fact that she had to write down notes in order to keep track of her lies and her statements that she'd previously made, it says that she didn't know her own story well enough to keep track of it while in a police interview, and she didn't want to mess up and say the wrong thing or contradict herself. So she would rather look suspicious bringing notes to read off of in a police interview than to say something to contradict herself where they could prove she had lied and contradicted herself. But really, having those notes with her does not prevent her from lying and contradicting herself and incriminating herself. So her initial story when the police officers arrived on the 27th was that Gannon was missing. He'd gone to a friend's house and he was missing. He didn't come home. She didn't know where he was. When she has her interview on the 29th, she completely departs from the story and comes up with just a random, absolutely unbelievable story. She claimed that when she and Gannon got back on Monday afternoon, before Lana got home from school, they went in the house and there was a man waiting there for her, a man named Eduardo. Now, she had met Eduardo the previous day on Sunday because Gannon had dropped a candle on the carpet and burned the carpet. So she was driving around the neighborhood where some residential construction was taking place, and she pulled over where these work crews were working on a house and asked this Hispanic male named Eduardo if he could come to her house and fix the carpet. She can't describe this person. She says he's Hispanic and he has brown hair and brown eyes. She doesn't know how tall he is, how much he weighs, any distinguishing features about him. She gave the most basic description of this person she could ever give. So when he said he would do it and he would fix the carpet, she then told him she was going to go out and run errands the next day and gave him her garage door code so he could go in and fix the carpet while she was out. What kind of person drives around a neighborhood, finds a stranger, says, "Here's my garage code, go into my house tomorrow when I'm not home and fix the carpet"? So here's her actual statement. She arrived home after 2 stops at Petco and, hours where nobody knew where she was because her phone wasn't with her. She disarmed her security system and then went into the basement. She said that Eduardo was in the basement, attacked her, and pointed a gun at her. She said that Eduardo held her at gunpoint, but he allowed her to go upstairs to greet her stepdaughter Lana when she came home from school. He's holding her hostage, but then when Lana comes home from school, he allows Letecia to go upstairs without him, leaving him in the basement, and tell Lana to go outside and play. And then she returns to the basement of her own free will. She doesn't run outside and scream for any one of the 10 to 15 neighbors around her. She doesn't tell Lana, go to the neighbor's house and call the police and tell them to come here. She doesn't call the police herself. She doesn't run out screaming, "There's a man in my basement with a gun." She sends Lana out like nothing's wrong and then goes back down to the basement where her attacker's waiting. So then Letecia returns to the basement where she claims this man, Eduardo, raped her for an hour between 3:30 and 4:30. During this period, she believed that she had hit her head and may have blacked out. Now remember, she goes to the police station on the 29th. They're obviously going to look at her head to see this injury where she hit her head and blacked out. No injuries on her head. Letecia also said that during the attack, Gannon jumped on Eduardo's back and that Eduardo was able to throw Gannon off his back and across the room. After Eduardo had finished, he had the gun held to Gannon and demanded a suitcase. Letecia provided him with a brown suitcase and a cardboard box. Eduardo attempted to assault her again, but she hit her head and blacked out. Letecia stated she tried to fight Eduardo off but was unsuccessful. The person writing the affidavit writes, "I know from training and experience that if an individual holds another person at gunpoint, he or she would likely not allow the person to have the opportunity for escape," as Letecia described being allowed to greet her stepdaughter upstairs before returning to the basement. Most crucially, if Letecia's story was accurate, any reasonable person would have immediately called 911 and reported this home invasion, rape, and kidnapping of their child. Letecia called law enforcement hours later and did not report the alleged rape until approximately 2 days later. Of even more significance, Letecia said she cleaned up the area where this alleged attack had happened. She straightened up signs of disturbances in Gannon's room and cleaned up the utility room. Investigators recovered cleaning supplies such as carpet brushes, which contained suspected carpet fibers. Now, as bizarre, crazy, and unbelievable as this story sounds, the investigators didn't just write it off immediately. immediately, they obviously made an effort to investigate this alleged attack, to corroborate or not corroborate Letecia's story. For example, investigators reviewed video footage from a neighborhood security camera that captured the exterior of the Stauch residence from the day of Gannon's murder and did not observe a Hispanic male entering the house. Investigators did, however, observe Lana arrive home on the school bus at about, 3:11, observed her enter the residence, and observed her riding her bike on or about 3:30. Furthermore, Letecia was offered to have a nurse perform an exam on her, a rape kit, and she did not want this exam to be completed. So she didn't want to give the investigators evidence that would help them find whoever it was who attacked her. And there's a lot more that doesn't add up with this story, because the time period she was allegedly being attacked was between 3:30 and 4:30. This whole hour, she claims, she was in the basement with Eduardo. He didn't let her go, and he was attacking her, and Gannon was trying to save her. And, this makes me even more sick because she killed him. And then she makes up this story about somebody attacking her. And in the story, Gannon tries to save her. It's sick. It's narcissistic. It's disgusting. She took this little boy's life and then concocts a story about how she's being attacked and Gannon tried to be a hero and save her. So in the time period of the alleged assault between 3:30 and 4:30, T used her phone quite a bit. She made a phone call and she sent several texts to Al and her daughter Harley. The time stamps of these texts are 3:41, 3:42, 3:43, 3:44, 3:45, 4:11, 4:19, and 4:20. Additionally, during this hour, the back door of the house was opened and closed a total of 10 times. The upstairs back door. While she was being attacked in the basement, who was going in and out of the house 10 times while she was being attacked in the basement? There was more activity in the basement than usual that day, however. The average amount of times the motion sensor would be triggered in the basement was usually between 3 and 4, but that day, the 27th, it was 10.3, and this can most likely be explained by T running up and down the stairs of the basement, maybe getting cleaning supplies, because remember, Gannon's bedroom was in the basement. So if that was the scene of whatever happened, or a scene of something that happened where there was a lot of blood she had to clean up, she would have most likely had to have kept going upstairs to get cleaning supplies, more rags, brushes, things like that, and downstairs. And she would also be taking things out of the basement, such as bedding, a body, any incriminating evidence left behind. And during this evidence, they directly ask her, did you kill Gannon? And she denies having done so. But then when they continue pressing her for more information, she said she wanted to leave. And then they took her cell phone from her. And then she started freaking out and shoving Kleenexes and tissues down her pants. She said she was having shortness of breath and chest pains. So they called paramedics. I mean, obviously, they're going to provide medical attention to this woman who's having a panic attack, and the paramedics come and they take her to the hospital. She had a miraculous recovery upon her arrival at the hospital. She made a call from the waiting room, and then she escaped. She ran away from the hospital without telling anybody. And she was there specifically to get help for her shortness of breath and her anxiety attacks, but they were also going to do a physical exam on her, which would have proved whether or not she'd been attacked or not. She didn't want that to happen because she didn't get attacked because nothing happened, and she filed a false rape claim, which is horrible, considering that, real people out there are getting sexually assaulted every day, and you're lying about it. Once again, lying about your stepfather dying in a car accident, lying about getting sexually assaulted. It's disgusting. There's no limits. There's no boundaries. There's no end point for her where enough is enough. She was picked up from the hospital by an unknown person and reunited with her daughter Harley miles away from the hospital. The unknown person who picked her up from the hospital, like I said, it says it's unknown in the affidavit, but I have a sense that they probably know who this person is at this point, but everything is sealed. We can't get any more information, so we don't know. Shortly after Letecia reports Gannon as a missing person, even before she has her interview on the 29th, she's already freaking out. She's already thinking that they suspect her. And she sends a text to one of the investigators on January 28th while they're at her house talking to her daughter, I believe, inside. And it seems she's outside either of the room or the house when she sends this text. And the text says, "What do you want from me? Because I have nothing. One of your very own leaked to me what you guys were doing. I did nothing and or am being set up. I'm not really even sure other than being told that by another blue with El Paso. I was told I couldn't go home to sleep, and on top of that, men were sent to a home with a minor female, and she was forced to stay there, not to even leave for food. Every conversation that's said, even at this moment, I can hear inside, what do you want from me?" And then Detective Bethel responded, "Come in to talk to me. I would just like information to find Gannon." So I don't know if Letecia was at her house and investigators were there, or if Letecia was at the police station, like outside, texting from outside. But it's very weird behavior. And this is where she first brings up the fact that she could be being set up. So when a suspect goes from, I didn't do this, I'm completely innocent, to I was set up, you know that there's kind of transition period there where they're like, okay, there might be enough evidence here to show that I did do it. So now I have to start bringing in all these third parties because I could have been set up. We're going to fast forward a little bit, and then we're going to go back and talk about T's internet history, but I want to illustrate the different versions of stories that Letecia kept making up. She told her husband, Al, 4 different versions of this story. So after Al gets home on the 28th, right, he's going to have questions. What happened? In story 1, she tells him that when the EPSO came to her house on January 27th, her attacker was still inside, and she tried to signal to the officers that there was an intruder in her house. Now, once again, it should be noted that the deputies entered the house and did a search of the house. It wasn't a thorough search. Like I said, they weren't looking into cars, they weren't opening closets and stuff like that, but they looked in the basement, they looked in the garage, they looked around the house. No intruder. Okay, now we got a second story. She was assaulted by another man, not Eduardo anymore, but a man named Quincy Brown, and this man abducted Gannon. She knew his name because an identification card fell out of his pocket during her assault, and she sent a picture of Quincy Brown to her husband, Al. Quincy Brown is listed online as a most wanted suspect in that area. So basically she just like Googled, criminals in Colorado Springs, and pretty much screenshotted a picture of the first guy that showed up and then sent it to her husband, Al, and was like, this is the guy that attacked me. Not Eduardo. The Hispanic Eduardo suddenly turned into a black Quincy Brown. I'm not sure how you mistake these two people. And then she only realized it wasn't Eduardo and it was Quincy Brown when his identification card fell out of his pocket. What identification card was it? Was it a work card? Was it a student ID? Was it a driver's license? What was it? What's his address? Where does he live? In story 3, Quincy Brown followed her home from the Petco, and at some point, he was lying in the middle of the road, and in order to not run a man over, she stopped her car. He forced his way into her car and made her drive him to her house, where he assaulted her and then kidnapped Gannon. So once again, stupid story. If a man was lying in the center of the road and I was driving, I would probably stop to avoid running him over, but then I would just either drive around him or stop, lock all the doors of my car, and call the police, especially when I see him get up and walk towards my car. I'm going to lock my doors at the very least. And she expects us to believe that she sees this guy laying in the middle of the road, she stops, he gets up, walks towards the car, which I'm sure isn't right in front of him. It's probably, a couple feet away. And he's able to get inside of the car and force her to drive him home. And then in the 4th story, T and Gannon were near County Line Road, Highway 105 in northern El Paso County on January 27th. He was riding his bike in that area and fell off, hitting his head. And then he was abducted by Quincy Brown, who was being driven by another man named Terrence. And remember I said in the first video that she doesn't say anything random. It may seem random at first, like he cut his foot and I bandaged it in the garage, but she says nothing random. The fact that she says he was riding his bike in this area and hit his head suggests to me that when she killed him, she hit his head. She hit his head, and she wanted to explain why there may have been blood in his bedroom, and if he was found, it would explain why he had a head wound. Now, on February 16th, Letecia told a female believed to be Tila Cummings that she has been giving Al numerous false stories because she knows he won't believe anything she says. So this is her excuse or her reason, her explanation why she's telling him a bunch of lies and not telling him the truth, because he's not going to believe anything I say anyways. The next day, she told another woman that she was thinking about flying to Colorado to take a lie detector test to prove her innocence, stating they still think I'm in Colorado, or they think I'm still in Colorado. So at this point, she'd already left Colorado and hadn't told the police, even though she's a suspect in a murder. The same day, she told another woman that she is going to take a lie detector test, but no law enforcement official is going to be present at it, and the results won't be admissible in court. She's essentially just taking it to shut up the haters and get her apology. February 17th, the next day, Letecia called a phone number associated with fakepolygraphtest.com. During this call, she's speaking to a male representative, and she says she hasn't gotten her test results yet that she ordered and paid for. She called the number back later and was like, I still haven't gotten these test results, and I got an email saying I'm not going to get them. Why? And this representative told her they have the right to not give her these test results if they feel like the questions she chose to have in this fake polygraph test suggested she might have been a part of an illegal crime. So on fakepolygraph.com, you're able to create the questions that you would be asked and then the responses to them. So you imagine it all, create it all, write it all. And the questions that she had sent to fakepolygraph.com suggested that she might have been involved in a murder. And so they said, we're not going to send you these results. We don't want to be a part of anything illegal. So she asks the guy, now what do? Just, delete these results and, take the money anyways? And he was like, yep. And she goes, okay, thanks, bye. And she hangs up. So she wants to make sure that they're going to get rid of the evidence that she even tried to get a fake polygraph. But her test didn't get deleted, and police were able to get a copy of the questions and answers that Letecia had written, which she wanted to be displayed on this fake polygraph test so she could post it on Facebook and maybe even give it to the police or whatever and just try to buy herself some time. Here's the questions. Question A, do you intend to answer these questions regarding your stepson truthfully? And she responds, yes. Question B, is your birthday August 4th, 1983? She responds, yes. This is the baseline question, right? So trying to get an idea of what your polygraph would look like if you're lying. Question C, did you participate in any way in causing harm to your stepson? No, is her answer. Question D, did your stepson return with you to your home? Yes, she answers. Question E, did you participate in any way in causing the death of your stepson? And she says no. And I expect that it was question E which set fakepolygraph.com off and made them not want to give her results. It's going to be like the fourth time I've said it. Letecia doesn't do anything randomly. And question D of this polygraph exam, where she chose the questions and the answers, it says something to me. They are saying in the affidavit that Letecia and Gannon returned home on Monday, January 27th together. And then she killed him. And then she started cleaning it. I don't think that's true. I don't think he did return home with her that day. Like I said, I think she hurt him badly on Sunday, enough to bleed. She beat him because she has a temper and she's a violent person. She beat him. He was bleeding. He cried all night, maybe threatened to tell his parents. She knew at that point she had to get rid of him. And I believe that's where the blood came from, because you're not going to kill someone and put them in bed to do it. You're going to want to kill somebody in the easiest place to clean up, where there's going to be a lack of physical evidence. So why would she leave with him on Monday? He was clearly injured. I definitely see that it's him going to the car, getting in, clearly injured, limping, walking very slowly, dazed out of it. Why would she take him in the car and drive him to Petco and then drive randomly around somewhere for 2.5 hours, go to Petco again, and then come home an hour before Lana's going to get home, and that's when she kills him? That's not very good planning when you're carrying out a murder. What I think happened is she hurt him. He was bleeding. She was worried. She drove to Petco so she'd have some kind of alibi, left her phone at home so nobody could trace her. And in that 2 hour period where we don't know where she was, she brought him somewhere and she killed him out in a place that wasn't her own home, and she could, safely clean up or easily clean up. There's a lot of things pointing to this being the case. Why would she put a question on the polygraph, did your son return home with you, where she says yes? Why would that be necessary? What is she trying to prove? Because all the other questions are lies, right? Did you have anything to do with your stepson's murder? Did you hurt your stepson? And she says, no, those are lies. But why would she put a question in there that was the truth? To answer it truthfully. Why would she want police to believe that Gannon came home that day and that is the scene of the murder? Because now they're going to focus more on the house. And if they'd gotten home, at roughly like 2:15, 2:30, and Lana's coming home at 3:15, what did Letecia do? Hey, Gannon, get in bed so I can murder you now? It doesn't make any sense. And even though she's not smart, she's calculated. I don't think a calculated person such as Letecia would have done that. I think when she hurt him on Sunday night, it was a crime of passion. It was not thought through. That's why she did it in his bed, and that's why there was evidence of bleeding in his bed. But at that point, when a day has passed and she's calmed down enough and she's calculated now, she's thinking, okay, how am I going to get away with this? She's not going to tell him to get back in bed so she can kill him. This is just my opinion. Let me know what you think. I honestly think that Letecia was so concerned about her public appearance, what the public thought about her. She's on Facebook, on all these groups, standing up for herself, telling everybody a different story, taking interviews with people, just talking way too much. I think she wanted this fake polygraph test so she could post it online and show everybody she was innocent. And she did talk to crimeonline.com, who reported that she'd taken and passed the polygraph. But I guess they said it was according to her. But why even report that. Like, the person who's suspected of murder says they took a polygraph and passed, but they have no proof of that, just their word. Why even bother reporting that? It's just very irresponsible journalism. Now let's talk about Letecia's internet search history. Between January 25th and 28th, Letecia viewed sites that were associated with finding jobs in other cities that were not the city she lived in, such as Los Angeles, Orlando, Florida, Pensacola, Florida, Fort Lauderdale. She also viewed 2-bedroom rentals in Florida and visited a moving cost calculator website. So she was doing this and thinking about moving and getting out of there before Gannon died. In approximately 44% of her Google searches during this time period, T hits the period button instead of the space button, exactly in the same way that was found on the Google search done on Gannon's phone, "Can my parent find me if my phone's off?" On January 25th, she searched "Find real military singles. Parenting should be 4 people, not 1. I'm overdoing all the work for my stepkids and their mom doesn't help. Mom advice from stepmom. If you aren't involved in your kid's life, you are shitty. My husband's ex-wife does nothing for her lids." I assume she meant kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a card since I raised her kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a Valentine's Day card since I raise her kids. One day, some people will wish they treated you differently. Why should my husband choose me over family? Find me a rich guy who wants me to take care of his kids. Find me a guy who wants me to take care of his kids and get paid. It's crappy some parents don't care for their kids or buy them presents. Parents are those who put their kids before their nails. I think she meant needs, but she could have meant nails. I mean, it's Letecia Stauch we're talking about. She could have meant nails. Now, before we move on to the Google search results from January 27th, I want to address some of this. Okay, so find real military singles. This woman is married to a man that she basically stole from another woman. She's not happy because Elle works a lot, and Landon, the kid's biological mother, is not in the state, I believe still in North Carolina. And T is basically feeling that she's the full-time and only parent to Gannon and Lana. A lot of these search results are focused on the resentment and anger she feels towards Landon, Gannon's mother. Just little petty things like, I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a Valentine's Day card since I raised her kids. One day people will wish they treated you differently. Like, the one that sticks out to me the most is, why should my husband choose me over family? Being a step parent is difficult. It's much harder, I think, than being, a parent to your own children. You are expected to treat children who are not yours by blood as if they were. Because if you're not going to treat these kids like they are yours by blood and like you gave birth to them yourself, you're not right to be a stepmother. You're not right to come into this man's life who has children and be a parent to his children if you're not going to love them like they're your own. And sometimes for some people that's difficult. But she says, why should my husband choose me over family? So she was clearly feeling that Al valued and cared for his children more than he did for her, which is the way it should be, honestly. You should always choose your children over your spouse, especially if it's a step parent. Now, you don't have to, do that in front of the kids. You should still show a united front in front of the kids. But in the end, these are your children. They are small. They need to be cared for, and they need someone on their side. But Letecia's this kind of selfish, disgusting woman who marries a man that has children and doesn't want to be a mother and wants to be number one in her husband's life. And when you marry a man who has kids, you will never be number one in that man's life. You shouldn't be. But that's what she wanted. And she Googled for help online to get reasons of why Al should choose her over his own kids. This shows the amount of resentment she held, not only towards Landon, but also towards Gannon and possibly Lana as well. All right, Google search results from January 27th. My son burned the carpet. How do I fix it? Will humidifier help if exposed to smoke? Colorado law for kids staying at home. School is out. Is it okay for my kid to stay home alone? Son is sick, but I have to go to work. Son's sick. Can he stay home? Suede repair kit for sofa. El Paso Sheriff Office number. January 27th is the day that Gannon is missing. She's the last person that sees him alive and the day that we believe he's murdered. January 28th. What is the process for our runaway child? Police steps for our missing child. Today's flight from Oklahoma City to Colorado Springs. Can Nintendo find my Switch? Car, not Volkswagen. They are asking for our son's toothbrush but saying nothing is wrong. Okay. Car, not Volkswagen. What is that? So is she talking about the car net that would be in the trunk of her Volkswagen SUV? You know, the one that's in there for holding sports items and things like that so that they're not going all over the place. Why is she Googling car net for Volkswagen? Is that because the car net that was in her Volkswagen has been thrown out or disposed of for some reason and she wants to buy a new one to replace it so nobody notices it's missing? Allegedly. They're asking for our son's toothbrush but say nothing is wrong. So now she's starting to realize that they suspect her. They want his DNA. Why do they want his DNA? They want his DNA to compare it to possible DNA found around the home. Some other searches, though, that's shed some light on the absolute dumpster fire that was Letecia Stauch's brain. Find me a new husband book. I feel like I'm just a nanny, not a stepmom. Husband uses me to babysit his kids. Are there any free money to move away from a bad situation? My husband never posts about me but does everything else. My husband only cleans up for the army but not me. I'm just a glorified babysitter. Find a new husband. Sent my husband sexual messages but he ignores them. Make my husband want me more. I feel like my husband uses me to babysit his kid. Find a guy without kids. This woman is completely emotionally and mentally immature. She's still in high school. She feels like a nanny, not a stepmom. She's just feeling like a glorified babysitter. I hate to break it to you, but that is how all parents feel, okay? All of us feel like we're just glorified babysitters. All of us feel like we're just nannies and housekeepers and maids and drivers for our kids. It's called being a parent. So it makes me really wonder what her experience was like raising Harley, her own daughter, because I know that she had Harley at a young age, and it seems they have a more friend relationship than mother-daughter relationship. It reminds me of Mean Girls, the main girl in Mean Girls, not Lindsay Lohan, but the real Mean Girl. Her mother would come in when her friends were there wearing like all these tight clothes and like, hey girlfriends, what are we doing? Like, this is Letecia Stauch. So I don't think she ever had a real parental experience raising Harley. And I have to imagine that that was because not only she had Harley young, but I feel like there was a lot of unrest and upheaval in Letecia's home when she was married to her first husband and Harley's father, who ended up dying from some sort of substance abuse problem. And I know for a fact that when kids grow up in environments like this, unstable environments, homes that may be filled with anger or violence, where tensions are always running high, kids tend to make themselves as quiet and as small as possible because they don't want the spotlight on them. They don't want anyone to pay attention to them. They don't want anyone to see them and take out whatever it is that's going on inside of this adult on this child. So a child in a home like this will become as small and quiet and inconsequential as possible in order to just avoid having attention on them. So I do wonder if Harley developed this as a child and just as a result was an easier child to deal with. Whereas Gannon and Lana, they are raised in a normal household, essentially, with parents who love them. And yes, there may have been divorce and upheaval, but for the most part, they weren't living in an abusive household filled with anger and violence and possibly physical and mental abuse. So they're normal kids, right? And Gannon's reaching the age 11. He's going to start talking back. He may say things like, I miss my mother. He may say things like, you're not my mother. And even if he didn't say you're not my mother, just the fact that he would say, I miss my mother, or I love my mother, or tell Tisha, stop saying things about my mother. She's my mother and I love her, would have pissed Tisha off because she would have been thinking like, what an ungrateful child. I'm the one here raising you. I'm the one putting you to bed. I'm the one cleaning up after you. I'm the one here. And you're going to favor her over me? I'm the one you should be saying you love and who you should be saying you miss. The mention of Landon in that house most likely would have been not well received by Tisha. And now she's over here feeling like Al is, not impressed with her anymore. And this is also going to be common because I do believe that Al and Landon were married and then he started a relationship with Letecia while they were still married. So when you get into a marriage where there's infidelity right off the bat, you're dating someone who's married, you're always going to know and think that it's possible it could happen to you. So she's sending him sexual messages. He ignores them. Make my husband want me more. She's trying to recapture that spark, but we're adults, okay? So we're busy. We work during the day, and she expects him to just, drop everything when she sends him, a topless pic and respond to it in the middle of the day when he's at work. We are adults. We're not teenagers. And it's not even that she cares so much about being loved and wanted by Al. It's that she needs to be loved and wanted by someone, anyone, military singles, real military singles, find real military singles, find me a rich guy who doesn't have kids, find me a guy who doesn't have kids, find me a guy who has kids but will pay me to take care of his kids. She cares about her position in a man's life, and she cares about money. And she feels that she married this man and she's helping him out with his kids, raising his kids, which you do. You become a family, a blended family or not, you become a family now. It's your job to be a parent and a mother to these kids now. You married someone knowing they had kids. You need to step up to the plate, but she's so immature. She's so selfish. It's all about her. But she has this victim mentality where she almost likes to be put in a position where she's disadvantaged, where she can complain to people. Oh, I do so much work. These aren't even my kids, and I'm always here with them. And, I bought Gannon a Sonic shirt, and he doesn't appreciate it. Or, Al's not giving me any attention, but I feel like I'm just his maid. They love that. They love to complain to people. They like to be seen as, Mother Teresa. So that way people are like, wow, that Letecia, she's a good person. She's a great lady. Like, Al's so lucky to have somebody like that who can come and raise his children and bend over backwards when their own mother won't do that. She loves that shit. So that's pretty much that. She lies about being sexually assaulted. We can tell that that's not what happened due to surveillance and also changing stories, and also the fact that motion detectors were going off like crazy in the basement at that time, up and down the stairs. She runs away from the hospital before she can get a test done or answer any more questions. And she goes back to this area where we believe Gannon's body was initially left, until she moved it when she drove him to Florida and dumped him there. She goes back there several times. She goes back there the first time, obviously, to put his body there. And once again, I believe that this happened on January 27th. I think she killed him while they were out, put his body there. And I think she went back there again to make sure he was still there, to make sure you couldn't see him from the road, to make sure that nobody was sniffing around. And then I think she went back there again during the day, which she did. She goes back again during the day. I think it was the 31st when it's daytime, in order to check and see in the light of day, can you see him from the road? And then she's obviously going to go back again before she leaves town to take him with her. So what happens after all of this? The investigation, the arrest affidavit, she'd already left town. On March 2nd, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office announced that Letecia Stauch had been arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and charged with the murder of her stepson Gannon. Now remember, they had not found his body yet, so she's still over here smirking in the pictures. They don't got anything. They don't have any evidence. It's all circumstantial, right? And she tries to escape from the deputies. She tries to run away. What kind of an innocent person gets arrested and tries to escape the deputies? She was charged with counts of first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. On March 18th, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office announced they had received a call from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office about child's remains found in Pace, Florida, 1,377 miles away from where Gannon lived in Colorado. A work crew with the Florida Department of Transportation working on Highway 90 found the remains near the Escambia River Bridge. The remains were tentatively labeled as Gannon pending a full autopsy. A source close to the case told KKTV 11 News that Gannon was murdered by blunt force trauma, stabbed, shot, and stuffed in a suitcase before being thrown under the bridge. There's currently a gag order on the Stauch case, so further details have not been released. Now, the whole report, a source close to the investigation, where it says he was shot, stabbed, blunt force trauma. And obviously, that seems like extreme overkill for an 11-year-old child, right? But I also do have to remind you and myself, before I get crazy and literally drive somewhere to visit Letecia in jail, it might not necessarily be true. So they haven't released anything. There is a gag order. We don't know what the autopsy revealed. We don't know if they found more evidence. We don't even know technically if he was found in a suitcase. These are all rumors. I do believe that he was found in a suitcase due to the fact that Letecia said when Aguardo was kidnapping him, he asked for a suitcase and she gave him a brown suitcase. So I do think that's real because, once again, she doesn't say anything unless it's going to pop back up later and somehow validate her previous story. But I wonder if the whole blunt force trauma stabbed shot thing came from the preliminary report that was done by that crime scene analyst guy, where he said that the blood spatter was consistent with blunt force trauma, a shooting, or a stabbing. Not all three. And then that's kind of where it came from. So once again, it could be true. It could absolutely be true that she did all three. I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't put anything past her. But it may not necessarily be true, but we will not know exactly how Gannon died until Letecia goes to trial, which should be happening soon, I hope. But there's still so much that we don't know. We don't know really where she went when she left Colorado Springs before she ended up in Myrtle Beach. There was rumors that she was going to the Daytona 500. She posted on Facebook she was going to the Daytona 500, but then she said her Facebook got hacked and somebody else posted that. I mean, I looked through pictures on Instagram of the Daytona 500, just hoping to find her or see her in the background of those pictures, just to have a pin to place where we know she was so we could go off of that, but I couldn't find anything. And there's so many questions, why on the 27th did she take Al's truck instead of her SUV? Why did she go to a Petco that was like a 30-minute drive away? And did Gannon actually come home with her that day? Now, it appears that the man who has the surveillance video, I think his name's Roderick Drayton, the neighbor that had that original surveillance video that showed Gannon leaving with Tecia that day, he does not think that Gannon came home with Tecia, allegedly. I don't know if he's changed his mind yet or he's said anything. I don't want to get sued, but he said that his video camera, his surveillance camera, has audio on it. So when she got out of the car, he heard the car doors lock. You could hear it on the video locking. So how would Gannon get out of the car, and why would she lock the car as soon as she got out if Gannon was with her? And if she killed Gannon when she came home that afternoon, between, coming home at around like 2:30 and Alana getting there at like 3:15, Gannon's body would have still been in the house when the police arrived. Even if she had stored him in the trunk of her car, would she have risked calling the police just, 3 or 4 hours after committing this bloody, brutal murder, cleaning it? Would she feel confident enough that she'd cleaned it enough to hide it from them? Would she feel confident enough leaving the dead body of her stepson in the house anywhere, much less in her own vehicle, knowing the police were coming and they might look around and they might look in her car? Where's the Nintendo Switch? Where's the bedding that she removed? I think that's what she wanted garbage bags for. She was cleaning up and she wanted to put the bedding somewhere. Where is it? And if she did kill Gannon when they got home, you can clearly see that. And within that first hour of them getting home, she's up and down from the basement 10 times. When would she have had a chance to kill him? I mean, they would have had to have walked in together and she would tell him to get in his bed and immediately she would do it and then she'd be cleaning up. It would have had to have happened within like the first 10 to 15 minutes. But if it was happening that quickly, then it wasn't a crime of passion. It was something she planned. And if it was something she planned, why would she plan to do it at home in his bed? It just doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense. The worst part about this is I don't think we'll ever really know, because Letecia is the kind of person who will stick to her guns that she's completely innocent because she loves being the victim, because she loves people to feel bad for her. She will stick to the story for the rest of her life. She could go to prison for his murder and get life in prison. And you'll see news articles, in 20 years, like Letecia Stauch still claims innocence from prison 2 decades later. She'll never tell us what happened. So not only did she take this little boy away from his parents, away from a life that he could have had and he was entitled to have, should have had, now she can't even give his parents and the rest of the world who become so invested in Gannon and his life and, finding justice for him, she can't even tell anybody what happened or give us closure. She is so selfish, so greedy, so narcissistic, such a control freak that she will hold on to that secret and bring it to her grave rather than release that control and lose control of the narrative. I mean, this is Casey Anthony, all grown up and really coming into her psychotic potential. The lies, the stories, the elaborate hoaxes, the elaborate ruses, going online, trying to buy this, searching crazy things online is exactly how Casey Anthony was. Except she was young, so she was still, honing her ability to be a pathological liar. I mean, there was times when Letecia was saying she didn't do it, and I'd read her statements, and I was like, oh my God, what if she didn't do it? What if everybody's dragging this poor woman over the coals and she's completely innocent? She gaslighted me, and I'm very speculative. I suspect everyone. And she had me questioning What I know, which is that she killed that little boy for no reason other than resentment, probably to hurt his parents, probably to hurt his father, who she was mad at, probably just because he said or did something and she flew into a rage and, physically abused him. I wonder if there's been physical abuse on those kids from her that had been ongoing. And, there's going to be a trial, and Lana is one of the people on the witness list. So hopefully she'll be able to testify and we will know. And Harley's also on the witness list. So if there's been any physical or mental or emotional abuse in the past with her, or if she knows something that we don't know she knows, under oath, hopefully she'll have to reveal that. But for now, that is all I have for you. Let me know what you think. What do you think about all of this? I'm so devastated for this little boy. I honestly hope that what the affidavit says is true, that he was killed within that hour after getting home on Monday, because then it would be quick. Instead of what I suspect happened, which is she hurt him so badly on Sunday that he suffered all night, probably cried for his parents all night, and she wouldn't let him do anything or call anyone. Suffered all day on Monday until she finally took his life. And I wonder what he was feeling, even knowing that she probably wasn't the nicest, most likable person, and they probably didn't always get along. I can't imagine Gannon would have ever expected that she would do that to him. We'll never know what his last words were. We'll never know if he asked for his mother or cried for his father or begged her not to hurt him. We'll never know, because she's a pathological, narcissistic psychopath. And I'm so upset that Colorado has outlawed the death penalty, because I'm not always a fan of the death penalty, but for this girl, for this woman, it is absolutely what she deserves. Like, if I could give her the death penalty and then bring her back to give it to her again, it would still be less than what she deserved. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. This was a tough one for me. I'm sure it's a tough one for you, but let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to check out Ana Luisa if you're looking for something to give your mother for Mother's Day, or if you want to drop a hint that your husband should get you something for Mother's Day, or if you just want to treat yourself to a beautiful piece of jewelry. There is a link in the description box that got lots of sales going on. I will be keeping up on this case. Obviously, it's very close to my heart, just like the Watts case was. I mean, the Watts case was very close to all of our hearts, and we all followed it very closely, but this is going to be another one like that, I think, where I'm going to follow the trial when it happens. I'm going to be reporting on it. I'm going to let you know what I think. I'm going to let you know what I find out, and we will hopefully piece this together ourselves, because we're never going to get anything from her. And hopefully Gannon gets justice, even though it still won't bring him back, and it won't ever make what happened to him better or go away. If you're new to this channel and you like what you see, please hit subscribe so you can be notified whenever I post. Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hit the dislike button if you disliked the video, because I don't care. YouTube sees it as engagement. It doesn't bother me either way. Let me know in the comments what you think. Share this video if you think that it's worth seeing, if you think somebody you know would like to see it. And follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter. I try to stay updated, or keep you guys updated on Instagram and Twitter as much as I can. Thank you guys so much. Stay kind, stay beautiful, stay safe, and stay home. And I love you so much. Bye.